Okay, would you share with us the significance of this competition for you and the reasons that made you participate? Okay, that's a very easy question. I think the significance for us was the site itself. The plateau of the parking of Lycabettus Hill as an extremely important site for Athens, and of course the Netus' theater. So for us, in a way, the significance has to do a lot with the site itself. Yeah, in terms of, I mean, in a way, this is one of the many competitions that have been prepared and organized by an organization, semi-public organization that now I think doesn't operate as such. It was headed by Nikos Belavilla, so there was a series of competitions about the city of Athens and Piraeus, and this one was the last one that was somehow made public, and an open call was done for it just after the election. So in a way, for us, it was like I mean, we actually thought to take part in other competitions as well. There is one that hopefully will happen about the Piraeus access that we knew that they were also preparing. So yes, for us was like one of the significant, let's say, competitions prepared by this authority. But for the Lycabettus competition itself, has to do a lot with the site and of course the Netus' theater and history.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go.
Your team, yes, to the second question. Your team is known for participating in architectural competitions of landscape design. Which are the risks of taking part in a competition?
We're not only doing competitions of landscape design. We are doing competitions about, let's say, public or publicly owned or publicly initiated buildings and concept designs that we consider essential for the life of the city or the neighborhood. So it's not just, I mean, we have done schools, we have done public equipments, we have done housing competitions, not just in Greece, but all over the world. So for us, it's the landscape element itself is not, it's not by itself the reason why we participate. It's the, let's say, we have to identify, let's say, a brief that for us has a relevant and important social impact. And what is the second half?
And which are the risks?
The risk is that you don't get anything, and you work for weeks and months, and eventually you don't see your project being acknowledged, or or of course materialized. But that's a risk that we are happy to take. I don't think there is a particular risk in let's say concept design of landscape projects, which is different from the one of let's say building projects or urban design projects. I don't think so.
Okay.
Then how many people worked on Lycabettus project and for how long? We operate as Fatura Collaborative. Fatura Collaborative is the kind of initial, let's say, crux is 4 of us, but since it's a collaborative office, we work in equal terms with whoever is part of the collaborative, of the cooperative itself at any given moment. So we were 5 plus 2 plus 2 consultants, like 9 people, and we work for about 2.5 months, 3 months, something like that.
2.5. Okay.
Why is it a?
It's not too long.
If I'm not mistaken, the competition.
Full time. 9 people full time.
Yes, I mean full time. The 2 were consultants from different, let's say, disciplines. 2 of them were helping us in crucial moments of the project, but they were not, of course, full-time. 5 of us we were full-time, yes. I mean, I don't know what full-time means anymore. I mean, we are working in other offices. Many of us are in the team. We are also academics, so full-time sometimes mean 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. Shift. So
Okay. Yes, I understand. Would you care to comment on the organization on Lycabettus competition and the brief?
Yes, of course. I think the organization and the brief itself were exceptionally good and extremely well done and prepared. And answering also on the second half of the question about the contents of the folder, it was an incredibly well prepared piece of work that was shared with all participants, that included dozens of very detailed documentation of the site in 2D and 3D, and with aerial photographs, drone images, and footage. It included all regulatory planning guidelines and legal, let's say, provisions for the design itself, but also, and most importantly, it included research projects, academic research projects that were supplementary to the brief and the content of the competition itself. So there was a research project done by led by the School of Architecture and the Planning and Environmental Laboratory. That was like a 500-page document, which was accompanied the folder. So I mean, I've seen many competitions so far. The preparation, the brief, and the information for participants was exceptional. And this has to be credited to, of course, Nikos and his team that took these competitions extremely seriously.
So would you say that the staff of the competition folder helped you finally?
Of course, yes, of course.
But it was difficult for you to separate the important information.
No. There was a hierarchy of information. There were very well prepared folders and files and visual and written material. I think it was extremely easy to navigate as well.
Okay.
At least for us. I mean, I don't know. Maybe other people are more cranky, but for us it was perfect.
Okay. In your opinion, does the decision of the jury follow the requirements of the organizer?
I cannot comment on that. I think it's inappropriate for me to comment on the jury's decisions.
Okay. Were there delays in the whole procedure?
Yes, but I think there were delays that they were not the fault of the jury, or if there was someone's fault, was the delays that were because of coronavirus and the difficulties that happened to the organization itself. Talking about ETAV here. After the submission of the competition. So the competition is submitted mid-December, if I remember well. We now know from the published minutes and notes of the jury that they've met and they made decisions quite quickly. I think by mid-February, end of February, they have decided. But the results didn't become public until much later. And the reason was that το Διοικητικό Συμβούλιο της ΕΤΑΔ. So the jury concluded, but then the jury sent the decisions and all the minutes to the CEO and the executive committee of ETAD, and we know that they were late in making, in like actually meeting and confirming the results. So it took about 2 months between the decision that was not public and the official announcement of the results. And then, of course, because of other delays, έγιναν ενστάσεις βασικά. We only, the results were only confirmed last week.
Yes.
So it took 5 months almost from the, let's say, kind of conclusionary remarks and decisions of the jury until the official results. And of course, we haven't been paid yet. So that's another problem, yes.
Yes. In architectural competitions, time is limited. In Lycabettus competition, was the time enough for you to prepare your proposal?
I would say yes. I mean, I don't think it was more limited than other competitions, but this is something that you learn by doing, and we have done, although we are quite young, we have done more than 10 already, and also working for others, you know, we have experience of, I would say, more than 20 competitions. So that's the reality of how competitions are done. So I think it was a lot of time, and I have to say that compared to what was happening 20 years ago, 15 years ago, where competitions were announced only in print in the relevant, let's say, magazines of the Union of Greek Architects or the Technical Chamber of Greece. So it was, you had to follow these magazines closely in order to identify the competitions. Now they're everywhere online. The moment they're announced, we know. So, you know, actually, you learn about competitions and you make a decision if you want to take part or not much faster and much easier and much earlier. There were times that you were not, you know, if you were not seeing the magazine of the union, or if you were not checking at I think there were like kind of pink pages at the end of the magazine of the Technical Chamber of Greece, you didn't know about the competition. So I think, I don't think time is an issue per se.
Okay. In your opinion, are there any problems in institution of architectural competitions? How could they be rectified?
What do you mean by institution of architectural competitions? Την οργάνωση, το θεσμό γενικώς.
Το θεσμό, ναι.
I mean, that's a very important question, and it might take a bit of time to answer it. There are multiple issues and problems. I mean, first and foremost has to do with the way public authorities in various levels of the state apparatus use loopholes in the existing, let's say, legislation about how they are supposed to design and build projects, and instead of doing competitions, they are creating de facto conditions that they don't have to do competition. So one problem is this: there was a history, almost like 40 years now long, of the alternative protocol to the open concept design competitions and open like anonymous open detailed design competitions, and how big firms were compromising this process. And of course, you know, different public authorities were not using competitions, but they were doing, you know, they were assigning companies and big firms directly to build and to design and build projects. This was a disaster for young practices like ours, or not that young practices, that they don't have access to this type of projects if they are not done anonymously and in an open way. So this is one, let's say, issue. So who is responsible to actually respect the laws? I mean, and avoid any temptation for loopholes and exceptions. So that's one. Secondly, architectural competitions, and that's a positive thing that has happened in the past decade or so. Architectural competitions used to be extremely time-consuming, demanding, and expensive to take part. The first competition that we did, some of us, it was, I did one before in 2002, 2003, and I was working in offices, but the first competition that some of us did as young architects was in 2006 with a group of dear friends that now are having their own practices. It was the City Hall of Ioannina city in Epirus. In order to take part, we were 7 of us, working day and night for 2 months to produce 10 A0s with drawings, only black and white by law. There was no use of color. It was forbidden. And a 1 to 200 model, which took weeks and weeks to prepare. So it was time consuming and extremely expensive. So even to send it by mail, as it was supposed to be done at these days, was extremely expensive because you had the model, which was 1 by 1 meter, 1 cubic meter even. These very expensive panels, printed, of course, and the booklets. So it was very, very, very difficult, even in the, let's say, open format that they existed. Nowadays, I think the new legal framework, but there is a revision of a pre-existing one, has made these requirements much smaller and much easier to accommodate. Mm-hmm. So they are only 4 to 5 panels maximum. There is no model. The booklets are smaller. So it makes our lives much easier, especially for small and young and poor practices like ours. It's much easier to take part. And we can do much better even. We have friends in countries like Spain, for example, that they have to submit 4 A3s, for example, or 2 A3s in some competitions. Or there are competitions in phases where you go and you have, 1 A3, and then the 10 selected ones, they can submit additional material, which is 2 A3s more. So this makes it extremely easy for young practices to take part in multiple competitions per year. Mm-hmm. Sometimes more than 10, because it's actually much easier to prepare these documents. Now, an A0, which is, half a square meter drawing is, an extremely demanding thing, which is, of course, doesn't necessarily provide any additional information than drawing that size. Mm-hmm. So that's a second issue, which has its positive impacts today, but I think we can do better. So even reducing further the required elements.
Yes, but sorry. Now there is another issue that the staff of what you prepare for the for a competition is 3Ds, and this excludes the participation of older architects. And maybe it is more expensive for them to pay someone for to create this stuff, 3Ds, to participate in a competition.
I don't think so. I don't agree. The physical models were, I love physical models. I've been doing them for my entire life. I'm just saying that if we are working for competitions, and if you're doing competitions, and a 1 to 100 or 1 to 200 model of an average size building with the surrounding area is a 2-month long process when it was made by hand, or now with 3D printing and whatever, it could be like a few weeks long process. I don't think there's an issue of generation. I think there is just a nostalgia that older people have, or many of younger people as well have, about the physical model. I couldn't care less about the physical models in the competition stage, to be honest. Because if I think it's much easier and much simpler and much cheaper if we don't have to submit physical models. I mean, otherwise we have to request significantly increase, which is also a very important demand. We have done it before in the union, which is to get compensation even if you participate in a competition. So you get paid no matter what. So for example, we can set up a 1,000 euro, 2,000 euro stipend for everyone that takes part, so that you can pay some of your expenses, let's say a month's work for 2 people, and then on top of that you have the awards. But even I don't agree that models are better than 3Ds, or it depends. And you know what, there's a fetishization and a very comforting nostalgia about what the physical model was. The physical model was where large firms were creating their own kind of micro teams of producing it, or people that were operating between academia and practice, they were exploiting students to do it. I mean, let's not fool ourselves. Okay, sure, they were nice, but they were like 5 slaves working day and night to make these models. I think if I want to add a third point about the competitions. So yes. One thing is, as I said, loopholes and authorities avoiding one. The second one is, how can we do better even with less things and less demands? The third point has to do with the way competitions are discussed publicly, the way certain individuals have access to power, and then they can, very in a kind of unchallenged way, criticize results, in a kind of gossip style online or in real space. For me, it's incredible what's happening now with the center of Athens. So we have there was a competition. There was a winning entry by an incredibly important office. There were complementary research done by many, and very important faculty members of the National Technical University of Athens. The mayor of Athens goes, and instead of commissioning the award to the first prize, tries to find all the possible loopholes. So this is my first point, of how not to do, not to build, not to commission the competition. And then members of the elderly aristocracy of our discipline, the 10 wise men, they start a dialogue informally with him. They go to his office. They provide ideas. They say, oh yeah, we can pedestrianize this. Then, they criticize him. The next day, they don't criticize him. The following week, they're writing in their blogs, fantastically, celebratory articles about, the project and the, amazing bright pains of Panepistimiou, and it's like, like people like us, it's like, okay, what the fuck, what's going on? Who has access to power? Who has access to decision making? Why these competitions are compromised by our own, experts? For me, that's also, for us, it's also an incredible violent thing to have, young practices, especially, to having to confront this elderly idiocy. Why there is a privileged access of some individuals from our own kind of field to certain positions of power, and no one is criticizing that. Why we're not, for us, and this comes from our own beliefs, a competition, when there is a first prize, there's a first prize. Everyone should stop commenting and bitching about it, and what we have to do is to defend the first prize. obviously we don't like the first prize because we designed something else, or we might like it because they did it better than us. That's fine. That's not the point. The point is that if the first prizes are not built, nothing is being built, and we end up with the toxic pains of the long walk of Athens. You know.